Welcome, everybody, to the first ever Dads Against the Narrative podcast, where we talk everything conspiracies and how that fits into how we live as fathers, how we train our children. As dads, we have this specific way we focus on our sons because we have to create men in this world that are going to carry on the legacy we create, but also take care of the world that we leave them. And so we focus there, but obviously, fathers of daughters, I am one, and we want to teach them exactly the same thing. And this idea all comes from this concept that everything that we're told, we don't need to believe. You've heard it said all the time that don't believe everything you see, don't believe everything you read on the internet. Well, that's what we're here for, is to teach, not only be critical thinkers, but continue that and teach our children to be that way. So we're going to talk everything conspiracies on this podcast. Talk a lot of times the people we bring on, we're going to find out what got them into understanding conspiracies. What was that first thing that got them going, wait, that doesn't track, something's off. We're going to talk on this particular one about what got us started into conspiracy theories, going down the rabbit hole. How far are we willing to go down that rabbit hole, and where we've come to this point, and how far down, even further further in our lives, how far we're willing to take our entire family, basically. So welcome. We're glad you're here. And this is my host, Jack Nofel. I'm so glad to be doing this with you, man. I'm so excited to see where it goes.
Heck yeah. All right, guys. Welcome to Dads Against the Narrative. I am Jack Nofel, like Nate just said. And I'm going to kick it off, I guess, here and take you down one of my rabbit holes that got me going. So, as we were designing this and coming up with what we were going to talk about in our very first one, we're like, let's just talk about how we got here. What got us going down this road of critical thinking and discernment? Because that's really what conspiracies is that it makes you think outside the box and not just accepting the narrative that's given to you. So the first one for me, guys, was 9/11. I was 22 years old. I was a bricklayer. I was on the job site, and I remember right away that our labor came back, and he said, "Hey, we're under attack, blah, blah, blah." And we look up in the sky, the planes are gone. Like, damn, this is crazy. But the craziest part wasn't that. It wasn't the attack and all that. Yes, we were all shocked and just like, what the hell just happened in the United States? But then I got home and I saw my best friends. And then they found those passports that were totally not damaged, totally fine. And that's when me and my best friends, all of us, it wasn't, one of us was not even like questioning if we were wrong. We were all just like, this is fake. This was a setup. This was staged, false flag event. All of us. It just wasn't even like, we didn't second guess it after we saw those passports. And then the very next day, the firemen came out talking their thing that, hey, there's explosions underneath them. And then the very next week, those interviews were wiped off the news, right? No one was allowed to play them. And so it was just like each little step went further and further for us to say, dude, we were right from the rip. This was fake, no doubt about it. And since that day forward, I never looked back and just accepted the narrative. I just thought, man, the government's lying. But I was also taught by my mother, since I grew up in a single mother household, she always would say, don't trust the government. Don't believe what they say. She worked her butt off doing things that she had to do to make ends meet. If it was strip clubs, bars, whatever it was, my mom was making it happen. And she just knew the dirty side of the world. And she saw the corruption, and she would make sure she came home and protected her kids and said, hey, don't trust them. Don't trust them.
Yeah.
Use your brain. Think about it. And that's exactly what 9/11 did. It just triggered all those memories as a kid. I mean, I'm the end of the Gen Xers,
Yep.
but like, what were we taught? We were taught to not trust the government, go against the government. Trust the government after you have used your brain and gone down the road, done your research, and said, is this true or not true? And I feel like we've got to a point in society where many people are just too busy sometimes to do the research. I don't want to just blame you guys for being lazy, but there's definitely lots of people who are lazy, but there's lots of people who are just so busy in the grind, in the wheel, spinning and spinning, that they can't stop to jump off and get the real information or research the real information. So they have to take the information that's coming to them by mainstream media, which we all know, you could go down that rabbit hole too. Everywhere we talk right now, there's rabbit holes, and that's the problem. So
Yeah.
fathers, to me, it's like, as I'm telling my son about 9/11 the other day, and he's like, "Oh, what happened?" I tell him the truth. He's 5 years old, and I'm just like, "Hey, this is an event that was started by our government, or maybe another government that's in the Middle East that we may know pretty closely that directed it and sabotaged us, or however you want to look at it. But
Yeah.
it was definitely an event that was staged, as we're seeing today in society. How important it is when we're looking at these false flag information. What can we pull out of it? What's truth? And it's okay not to have the truth. It's okay to get to a point of saying, I don't know. I really just don't know. And that's another reason we need to go down these rabbit holes, is to also tell our kids and let our kids see that we don't have all the answers, that we are just humans. As
Yeah.
men, we are just humans learning on this ride with them. So that's really how I got started, Nate, was 9/11. It was 9/11 really just triggered me. And from there on out, every event that came after, if it was SARS, if it was H1N1, it was like, no,
Hmm.
that's fake. That's fake. And then everything became after 9/11 fake first.
Yeah.
Until I can prove it's true, it was
Mhm.
fake first.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I still am right now. I just have a very critical thinking mind where I say, hold up, let me take a step back,
Right.
put all these pieces together. And when the pieces aren't fitting, I'm just like, bro, come on.
Make
You
it
know,
make it make sense. What's going on? Yeah,
exactly.
man. I think that I think there's a plus side, and it may not just be a male thing, but I see it a lot with guys. I'm come from the sales background, and when you are selling, there's a lot of times where you can see the wife like nodding her head and like in home sales, nodding her head and getting into it, and the guy's kind of like, I don't know. So I almost feel like there's like this natural skepticism from the masculine side of things, and maybe that's just me, but I kind of feel that that's the case. And I feel like not that women are easier to dupe. I just feel like that when what I've felt from sales, where people already feel like sales guys are like slimy and greasy and sneaky, but guys feel that way more often. At least that's but what my experience is. You really got to win over the guy like mentally on the side of like, this is why this works. This is why I'm doing these things, and be real technical. And you don't have to do that as much with the wife in the house. That's what I've noticed. But I think that that's a good thing. But I also think that there's a point at which guys have this. Like individual level, they may be more skeptical, but when it's something that's on TV, it's like widely accepted, right? And so I would say this, mine is the same exact thing. Now, I will say I was behind you on 9/11 in the sense that on the day of 9/11, it's so crazy because this is our generation. That was our big thing. That was our JFK, right? So like for me, I'm like I worked in the mailroom at my college, and I was delivering on campus. I can still see where I was when I walked into the door, and the woman at the desk told me, she's like, "Did you hear about this plane flying into this building?" I remember all of that. I mean, the whole school shuts down. I go home. I was married at the time to my ex-wife. I was married to her. We had just gotten married like a couple months prior to that. So we just sat in our house and watched these videos of over and over and over again, watching the planes. And I think the first thing is what is happening. They're saying that America's under attack. If I'm not mistaken, everything on the news said America under attack. And so I just felt fear everywhere. You could like I wasn't afraid of walking out of my house, but it was a full pandemonium chaos feel, and I'm going, what is happening? And I honestly, I bit that thing hook, line, and sinker. I mean, even the buildings falling was like, what is going on? I can still see the people just covered in ash and dust and all that. And I'm thinking about it. When I think about it now, I was so into the actual scene. It's kind of like where you can't see the forest for the trees, right? I was so deep into the forest that I didn't see it for what it was. I just saw, oh my gosh, this is the building's falling. How did building 7 fall? Oh my gosh, what's happening? Like the Pentagon's under attack. There's some plane that just like crash landed in Pennsylvania. What is going on? And I just remember all of the chaos. I got dragged right into it. And the craziest thing about it is because 9/11 was mine, but it didn't happen until 2004 for me. I in 2004, I lived in Ohio, in Columbus, Ohio, and I mean, thank God for this person, but somebody along the way just was walking down the street putting loose change videos. And at the time, the loose change video was basically saying that the 9/11 was an inside job. And I mean, they got hammered that close to it for being so against the narrative, right? They got beat up a lot. But I don't know what made me do it. I pulled it off the front of my like it was in my my windshield wiper of my truck. I was like, "What is this?" And stupid guy is like, "Oh, it's a DVD," and I put it in my DVD player like a dummy. But then I got into it and I started watching, and I'm watching all the puffs of smoke coming out of the sides of the buildings that are falling, as just like you would watch if you watched a controlled demolition. And I'm watching it drop straight down. And I don't remember the day of because I think I was so taken in by the chaos that I do remember watching that being like, yeah, how did that building fall straight down? How did that happen? And then when you watch that, that's never happened ever. Their plane has never hit a building and destroyed it that way, and you've never had it burn like it did. And then all of those things. It was that video in 2004 where I was like, this is not right. And I will tell you this, man. I think that I grew up with some critical thinking skills, but I wasn't taught like don't believe the government. And looking back, I go, my dad always said he didn't like the education system, and I'm wondering if that's why he felt like it was just cram it down their throats, get them to a test, let them take the test, and then that be it. Maybe, maybe not, um, but I will say that he did always say that he hated educators and the educational system. So maybe that's why. But that thing that when that turned, I started saying stuff to my family and my friends, and they were like, "What is wrong with you? That's insane. That's totally crazy. Why would that be what happened? You're out of your mind." And I would go, "Look at this video. Like watch this video and tell me I'm wrong. Like tell me they're wrong. I'm totally open to it." And I think that's the best part about being, well, you said it too. That's the best part about being a critical thinker. I don't know, right? So I can't just say, "Oh, well, this is what I think, so I'm obviously right." And I know there's tons of people out there that say that exact thing. Um, or this is what I feel. That's probably what we're dealing with now is that I feel this way, so it's got to be right. That's my truth. Anyways, that got me just going, well, prove it wrong then. That's fine. Just show me how does a building fall without being controlled, like without a controlled demolition, how's the building fall that big, fall straight down? How does that happen? And what,
Yeah.
like way up high where they got hit, way up on those upper floors, the 110th floor, where the plane hit. Now you're telling me that the free fall of the top section of that is what caused the bottom to bow? That all that stuff was still structurally sound underneath. It was crazy, and I honestly didn't see the conversations that the firefighters were having, not until years later.
Uh,
But when I think about it, I go back and I'm like, yeah, that's the one that got me too. 9/11 got me looking into it, and then I started down the rabbit hole of like Jesse the Body Ventura like wrote a book called
yes.
Conspiracies, and then I
Yes.
started reading that. I'm like, oh my gosh, like what is going on? And then I couldn't stop, and now I'm with you. Everything is bullshit until proven that it's not. And unfortunately for me, I've got a pretty high standard for that to be the case, that I'm not just going to sit there and say, "Oh yeah, that," like I'm not taking anything at its like face value. That would be to me that's insane, because there's just way too much underneath that's going on.
I mean, it's just like when you meet people, Nate. It's like
Yeah.
when I was the leader for soldiers, I had like 70 soldiers under me when I was a platoon leader. I remember soldiers would come in their first day, they're a private, and they'd give me this story. They're like, "Yeah, back home, I'm this, this, and this." And then I'm like, "All right, cool. You're going to be very, very helpful here in the United States Army, man. Awesome. I'm glad to have you on the team." And then you send them to like the motor pool on the first Monday, and they have to go fix a vehicle, and you just see their lazy tactics and their
Mm.
habits, and you're just like, "Dude, what you just told me is full of shit." And it's the same thing. You have to take people at their face value at first, but it
Right.
only takes a little bit of time before the true character comes out, right?
Right.
It's the same thing with like when the news comes out. It's all lip and bullshit and hearsay, and then people will be like, "Oh no, it's real, it's real." They count on the population to keep that conversation saying, "Oh no, no, I'm feared. I have all this fear because 9/11 happened, right?" Because you're talking about that's
Yeah.
what they did. They did a fear tactic to make sure that everyone knew, hey, be scared of Islamic people, be scared of anyone who's wearing a hijabi or any kind of anything to do with the Middle East. It was just like, dude, what are you talking about? Now burqas are bad.
Yeah.
Everything's bad. And it's like, what? Dude, that makes no sense. And then my family is Lebanese at that time. So, and one of the pilots was supposed to be from Lebanon.
Yeah.
And literally the very next day, my mom's like, make sure you don't tell anyone you're Lebanese anymore. Because I grew up eating only
Dang.
Lebanese food. All of our
Yeah.
weddings were Lebanese, traditional weddings.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, I wasn't allowed to be Lebanese.
Huh.
But
Dude, that's
remember,
awful.
I'm just a white male, so I'm the bad person here. although,
Well, now
I,
you are for sure.
although only my family's Lebanese, it's so crazy. So at that time, it's like, dude, what the heck? I'm not
Yeah.
Lebanese. I'm not allowed to say it because I may get attacked, and people
Dude.
fell for it. I mean, how many people are just like, kill all the Muslims? Like, what, dude?
Bro.
There's
Yeah.
billions of Muslims, and there's some
Right?
really good people out there. Like,
Yeah.
you're just gonna erase genocide people. Like all of a sudden, I think that may be the time for our generation to accept genocide. Like, yeah, we
You're
heard
right. Yeah.
Nazi, all this Nazi stuff, which guys, we'll do videos on World War II. I don't want to jump down that rabbit hole right now because if you know
Yeah.
anything about me, World War II, I'm a history major. World War II is a huge false flag. So is World War One. They're
Oy.
total setup events to make the world go to where we are at the precipice now, where they're
Yeah.
trying to get it. And so it worked. They've the people who've been running all of this have had a grand design that's 200 years old, and it's just
Mhm.
been keeps getting implemented each stage, and
Yeah.
we're just the people going along like they
Yeah.
just giving us money, they're giving us handouts, they're giving us this, and
Yep.
it's like we accept it, and each time you accept it, they're taking something from you.
Well, dude, and if you wait long enough, like if you're in power and you wait long enough, everybody forgets, right? So,
Right.
like, I would say this: now you have the internet, so you have people have a camera and a video, like they have the video capabilities instantaneously, right? I mean, years ago, this right here would not even have been possible. When we were kids, this was not possible. You needed a full sound studio. You had to have so much money, and now this is like a computer and like all the setup is so small, easy. But you have video on your phone, and I know people know this, but it's crazy to think that you look at when the TV came out, and I know without question there are things we can go down on all of that. And what's funny is I don't know all the conspiracy theories, but I know that there's got to be stuff where they're like, well, if you see it with your eyes, you're going to believe it more. So you start putting stuff on TV, and then you can just walk right down how things were controlled. So what you're talking about there, I look back at 2001 when all that went down. I only had the TV. I had a cell phone, but it was like it wasn't a QWERTY keyboard. It was the T9 word, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. But all you did would use it was to make calls. You didn't even I didn't text until I came back into the States in 2004. So maybe 2006 was when I started texting, something like that. But when you think about that, the only way we got our information was newspaper, somewhat over the internet. Email was still new. You had and TV, and TV was king, right? You got the nightly news, you got the morning news, and that's really all people had. So even when you go back into the 40s, 50s, and 60s, when all that started coming up, I'm not surprised that people would bite it hook, line, and sinker. But if you wait long enough, you can dupe the next generation with you can do the next generation with the exact same fear tactics because that generation didn't experience it, right? So, I mean, we're every 20 years? You think about it, and I know where we are and the day we're coming out on this, and we don't have to go down this because obviously we're talking about something specific now, but there's the 2001 that happened, COVID hits in 2019, 2020. I mean, 20-year difference, and now we're looking for more control in some other way. And every time they take more of our freedoms, at least in the United States, they seek to take more of our freedoms. And if they can make us give them to them freely because we're afraid, that's even easier.
Bro, you're not even joking. I mean, look at 2001. What happened after the Patriot Act?
Yeah.
It came
Yeah,
out,
dude.
and now they're talking. What just happened this last week is upgrading the Patriot Act to the next censorship, where they're allowed to listen to everything, which they're already doing. We already know that.
Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
absolutely.
but yeah, it all ties together. And I do agree that there's something I seen where it was like every 37 years, it's something weird number
Yeah.
that There's always a disaster. It's always followed by government taking more. And this guy did this entire video, and it must have started in like before the Civil War. It was
Hmm.
crazy, like maybe the Revolutionary War, and
Yeah.
then he did it every year on, and it was just like it worked. It literally hit every chapter, and it
Oh,
hit 2020 for COVID perfectly.
dude.
I'll have to find it and send you. It's really interesting, but I do agree there is some kind of system that's to take every generation, especially like we'll look at war. War
Yeah.
takes all the masculine men and the
Hmm.
guys in shape and puts them in war, and then there's destruction and death, and you get
Yeah.
rid of the or mental health
Mental. Yeah.
problems. They come back, and now you take the strongest men, and what happens? The masculinity's gone, testosterone's gone, and who's running it?
Yep. Yeah.
So
And the revolt is less likely because the ones who would lead that revolt are either hurt or like mentally struggling. Like you take that whole group of men out, and now you've taken out the people that would revolt and or rise up. I mean, I hate saying it like this, but it's pretty genius if you're in power to do that, like to be that way. And that's what's sick is that it's so smart. And the part that drives me nuts is that the people just keep falling for it. Like I said, I fell for 9/11, hook, line, and sinker. And then when I saw the video, because I was in the emotion, I think that's the thing is we're inside the emotion, we're freaking out, and you could probably point that in. I mean, I'm I'm just hitting. I'm hitting the highlights of where I went from there. But it's like, all right, so you can go all the way back to the Civil War and the assassination of President Lincoln. You can go to, I mean, it jumps a little bit from there, but you've got the assassination of JFK, total chaos, total fear. They controlled the narrative because it's all over the TV, and that's the only place you got it. And so they could cut and move and push out whatever they wanted, all the way to 9/11. At 9/11, 9/11, I literally sat in that fear for who knows how long. And when they said in 2003 we were going into Iraq for WMDs, I felt like, well, that makes total sense. I look back now and I'm like, why are we going to Iraq? Because we were blaming like Saudi Arabian guys and Lebanese guys. We're blaming them, and here we are going into Iraq. It was like, I don't know how they got us there, but they got us there. That in 2003, when they did the Operation Shock and Awe, I remember sitting on the like watching that, being like, hell yeah, let's go, America. And they could have played like all the hype music for America over top of that, and all of America was like, yes, go get him, go get him. And I look back on that like, how in the hell did we fall for that? That's the problem, is that we fall for it when we're in the emotional state and we can't step out and see it for what it is and be like, they're full of shit and we shouldn't trust them. But it's all to take power is what it feels like to me, you know?
dude, you just brought up a lot. One thing that I wrote a 27-page paper in college on how Iraq was a false flag
Yeah.
war and how we didn't have the right to even go to war and how General Powell totally was got. I mean, he wrote a whole book on how he was got. His last
Yeah.
book. And General Powell, like, yes, you are to blame, General Powell. Yes, you went up there and gave the speech. But who
Yep.
else was there giving the speech, guys? Netanyahu.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not forget who was there. And every single time there's a Netanyahu right around the corner that's
Yep.
right there insinuating that this is the truth and saying, hey, we need to do this as retaliation every
Mm-hmm.
single time.
Yep.
Who's still doing it? It's Netanyahu. It's like crazy that people don't line these events up and say, hey, maybe this guy is as evil as they come and he's causing
Yeah.
all these problems. But so many people, I do think like so many people are busy and there's so much out there to divide us all by that you just
Dude.
can't even see it. And then
Yeah.
what happens? You just have families that are fighting, you have friends that are fighting, and things that are breaking apart. And that's exactly what they want. Instead of us saying, hey, let's unite, let's love each other and work together, that's the outcome we need.
Yeah.
Instead, what do we have? We have division at every single category you could think of: race, sex, politics, right,
Yeah.
left. But it's never up and down. It's never like, hey, maybe they are to blame for
Yeah.
everything. Why don't we
Yeah.
unite on one front and not worry about the skin color, your
Yeah.
sex, abortions, all the shit that is like so meaningless overall in life,
Yeah. Well,
you
and,
know?
Andy Frisella on the Relay F, he calls them below the line
Yeah.
deals, right? And I totally agree with that. And it's not that they're not important, right? It's not that you can't have your own opinions about those things, but it's that right there. If we as a collective were to look at what's going on and then critically think and say, yo, this doesn't compute. Who's doing this? Who's behind it? And then all of us, instead of being divided, go, we're going to find out who that is and force that. We're going to find out it's a very small amount of people. I mean, across the world, it might be 2,000 people. It is not many. It's probably less than that.
I agree.
But it's like even if it's 2,000 controlling 8 billion, all it takes is the 8 billion to say not anymore, and that goes away. But if you keep us divided and we stay divided, then they can just have their way with everything because I'm over here blaming somebody else about something, and they're blaming me about something else, and all we do is bicker and argue and fight about that. And I mean, I kind of feel like as we were talking here, I'm sitting here going, oh my God, 2001, they needed to unite the United States in some way to make us want to go to war against somebody else. We needed a common enemy so that they could do that. And now we're dealing with things where they need to make us our own enemies so that we're divided because they're real like we're all if you're really paying attention, you're looking introspectively at the leadership of the United States and they need us to stop doing that. And so they need us to turn and look at each other and so they're trying to make multiple enemies as opposed to finding one enemy because it doesn't serve their purpose right now. But that's the play over and over again. It's like wash and repeat, like rinse and repeat. That's all it is.
Yeah. And I mean, and then that's why some people get so like caught up. I mean, obviously my wife's black, and so like I hear a lot of black things from my mother-in-law and other people,
Mm-hmm.
but they get stuck on just one little area. It's like, dude, if you just remove yourself from like
Mm-hmm.
everything's black and black people need to support black people, this and this and this, and just good people support good people based off of
There it is.
character,
Yeah.
then you're gonna find out the world runs much smoother
Yeah.
and in more of a harmony of a frequency, right? Because like a lot of times what people were saying, and if anyone out there doesn't know about the Tartarian Empire, the
We don't
Tartarian
get into
Empire,
it.
they say that they existed and they were a perfect frequency matched like as a Christ consciousness. So like they knew how to harness every frequency in the atmosphere. That's how they had free energy. That's how they had free light. That's how they had free everything. That's why we got all of their stuff after the mud floods, right? So it's just it was bestowed upon us all this beautiful architecture and engineering that was created by a society that was actually aligned. And
Right.
so now we are so misaligned that everything is chaotic. Even our buildings in the United States, I mean, they're just square. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
kids go to school, they're in fluorescent lights. You're born in the fluorescent lights. Like, what the fuck? That's so disconnecting. I mean, look at back in the days when Rockefeller removed all the medical system, the holistic practices, when kids would get sick, and what would they do? They'd put them in the sun in the hospital, take them upstairs to the top floor, and they would have like all these beds in the sun because they knew vitamin D was so important. But what did they do during COVID? Stay inside, sky's bad, sun's bad, air's bad. Like what the fuck? They're
Yeah.
taking your basic shit that we are given when you're born and saying it's bad for you, and then people
Yeah.
believe it.
Yeah.
So it's like imagine how easily it is to manipulate these types of people. I mean, and you go all the way back in time, and they've been doing this for years and years and years. And when we talked about masculinity just leaving, look at World War II when all the
Mm-hmm.
women were replacing the men at the workforce. And all of a sudden, after World War II, what happened? It became the big boom for the feminist movement. And who designed the feminist movement? Did you guys know it was a Jewish man who designed the entire program and said this will work to get women out of the house, split up the home, and then what did California accept? California accepted the divorce without clause,
Yeah.
right? So you
Yeah.
can divorce on any medium and below level type of shit. So it could be like, oh, I'm mad at my husband, I'm getting divorced.
Yeah.
Instead, before you had to actually go in and say, hey, my husband's cheating, he has another wife, blah, blah, blah. And then you have to come up with actual facts
Yeah.
why it's a bad system. But no, women said, I want to have this because now they just worked during World War II when all the men are gone. And again, guys, we'll do a whole talk on World War II. That's a deep, deep, deep one. Um,
I love how we're just touching on every little like it all feels like it all connects all the way through.
well,
I
it
love how we're
does. I
touching
mean,
all those
because when you start connecting the dots, it all starts to connect, and you're just like, holy shit, they've been doing this for years.
years.
I mean,
Yeah.
guys, I'm going to jump around here because it is our first one. This is a fun talk. But if you go all the way back, it's like when did dinosaurs exist? And they never existed in any books until the 19th century.
Hmm.
The 1800s is when dinosaurs existed. Before then, it was always dragons. So just simple things like that. Why did they remove the dragons and create dinosaurs? Why is every dinosaur bone fake in every freaking museum you go to? And it says it
Hmm.
usually before you go in, like, hey, these are created based off of facts, is what they'll say, but
Yep.
that they're not. They're created off of
Hmm.
someone else's idea to
Sure.
replace dragons. But why were dragons replaced? Why do we not talk about the Tartarian Empire? Where did before the Renaissance period, the Dark Ages was there, but we're missing like 200 to 300 years of history that's just not there. So it's like they are able to just erase things and replace things so fast that you don't know what's true. And then if you go even further back and you go to the King James Bible, people just don't even look up who King James is. They're like, oh, King James Bible, it's the good one to go to. And then
Yeah.
you realize King James was as evil as they come, and he wanted a Bible created so he can manipulate his population. And then you're like,
Right.
whoa. Then they left
Yeah.
out the book of Enoch. The book of Enoch has so many things about frequencies, about how we are supposed to be in harmony and congruency with each other. It all ties to each other because once they started lying, it became an empire or a world design now of Satan, of like
Mm.
evil people running us. And
Hmm.
it's like, what's going on? Why does this evil have this hold on us that keeps wanting to divide us, keeps wanting to lie to us, keeps telling us things are true when they're not true? When my eyes tell me the sky is blue, they're telling me it's green. And it's like,
Yeah.
no. And
Yeah.
then there's people who are like, no, the sky is green. And it's like,
Dude,
dude,
that's the
wake
thing
up.
too, right? They've done studies on that where they're like they bring people in and they do like I think it's lines on it's lines on a board. And they'll be like, all right, like half the people know what's happening, and the other half don't, or it's even like maybe just two people. And so the whole group knows that they're all going to say all like it's three lines, and they're like, which one of these like these are which one's longer, and they're all the same length, and they're like, oh, C, and everybody says C, and then the people who don't know it's happening, they're like, yeah, I think C might be a little bit longer. And what you just said about the green sky, yeah, they could totally pull that off if you get enough people to agree. Like there's that need to fit in. And again, I think that that's part of what we're saying is like dads against the narrative. We're like, stop trying to fit in. Like you stop trying to raise kids that fit in. And I mean, I know we kind of have we have different lives in the sense like I know you're in Mexico, I'm still in Tennessee. I am wanting to go to Mexico. Lord help me get there kind of thing. But like you guys homeschool like all the way. We don't homeschool, but we're out of the public school. There's like those so there's things that we do differently. So I'm not saying that you got to be exactly like Jack or like me, but it's like there's a lot that comes down to it where when we're willing to stop and go, I'm not afraid to stand up here and go, that's not right, that's not true, or what's happening isn't okay. You know, those kind of things. The moment one person is willing to go, dude, the sky's fucking blue. What is wrong with you? Someone else goes, okay, I'm not alone. And it's that right there. It's the I'm not alone. Yeah, I saw it was blue. And you can watch that tide turn, right? You can watch that tide turn all the way back to where people will go back going, yeah, what moron said the sky was green? Because they were trying to pull something over and you were able to change it because you were willing to say that's not true. I don't like I'm looking at it and what you're saying doesn't add up. You know, it's crazy.
Yeah, no, I agree. What you're saying, Nate, for me to kind of summarize it in my own head,
Yeah.
is us as fathers need to unite so we can push all of this lies and all the bullshit narratives out of the system and
Hmm.
show our kids what honesty and truth and love look like
Right.
from a male's perspective, from the
Right.
masculine side.
Right.
And the only way to do this is to have talks like this, is to question each other. I mean, we don't agree, just like you were saying, we don't live the exact same lifestyles, but I
Right.
still love everything that you're doing. You know what I
Same.
mean? And I have friends, I have lots of great dads who kids are in public school.
Right.
And guys, if you know me, I bash public school all the time. And those friends of mine, those men, they could even get pissed at me sometimes, but they know I'm just trying to spark conversation. I'm
Yeah.
emotionally charging you to say, no, this is why public school is better. No, this is why. Because when you do that, you will come to the terms that there is no public school that's better. It's
Right.
always going to be homeschooling. That was what it was for thousands of years. Mom and dad teach what's important. You know why? Because that's how you keep customs,
Mm-hmm.
morals,
Mm-hmm.
values, traditions within the family, something to live for. And it shows you that you're loved, that you are important. But when
Right.
you put kids into a public school, into a box, and that they're just a number of one of 30 in a class, what does it show them? It shows them the same thing as the model of the globe, right? People always be like, well, this is how important you are. And they keep going
Yeah.
out into the universe and further. And they're like, oh, I'm out in fucking the galaxy now. And this is you over here. You're nothing. But that's not what
Yep.
God says,
Oh,
right?
dude,
God
I'm
says we
preaching.
are important. We
Yeah.
are Christ-like. We are God within. So
Yeah.
no, you shouldn't take that focus away and tell your kids this is how important you are. You need to zoom the fuck in and say
Yeah.
you are important. You have a purpose. You have a reason for being here, and you will rise and become the better human.
Dude,
Because
I love that. Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah,
I want
because
to
that's
I don't
against
want
the
to.
narrative. That's exactly what we should all be. We should all be against the narrative, and we should all be teaching our men, our boys, to be men, and our girls to love men,
Yeah.
men that open the doors, men that ask the fathers to marry them. Right?
Yeah.
Like, hey,
Yes.
take out the dad for a date and be like, hey, this sucks,
Yeah.
and I'm very nervous to ask you, but can I marry your daughter?
Oh my God.
Those
Oh.
old traditions need to come back. And
Yeah.
storytelling, what happened to storytelling? We don't even
Dude.
tell stories anymore.
Yeah, now
That's
it's a
what this is about
7-second little
also.
clip on the TikTok, right?
Yeah,
It's like our
yeah.
attention spans are shorter and shorter. Yeah. Dude, I love what you just said there. And oh God, there's so much, dude, this just makes me even more hyped to keep going because like we'll have to, for anyone who sees this one, they're gonna have to know that we'll get it figured out. But like you're talking about how when you zoom that far out, you're like nothing. What I love is okay. So my background, I studied to be a pastor, and so I planted a church back in Columbus, Ohio, in 2006. Pastoral life is, and we can go down that path. I don't have any problem with that too. But pastoral life is not what I do now. But I always loved studying the scriptures, and the number one thing I keep coming back to is Genesis 2. Um, the beauty of it says God is Father and He a lot. However, if you read chapter 2, God is going through a nesting phase like a pregnant woman before He gives birth to humanity, and it zooms in. It talks about Him creating like the stars and the heavens and the earth, and then it comes down into like the waters and the land, and then it comes down even deeper, and it just keeps shrinking down into this garden. And that is where God then, from the wilderness, which I believe is part of it, like outside of the garden, He makes man. He forms him with His hands, basically, right? Is metaphorically. But then the scriptures actually say in Hebrew that He breathed His breath into him, and that was like the divine kiss, making humans come alive. But that word is nephesh, and it's spirit. Like the same word they use for spirit is the word for breath, which is like He gave like the idea of the word inspire. He inspired life into him from Himself. That's where you can say that we were created in the image of God. And it comes all the way down from this massive cosmic amazingness all the way down to this tiny little place, this one being, Adam, and God not only just makes him, but breathes His own breath like divine CPR, and animates and infuses the soul into dirt, creating humanity. You don't get any more intimate and any more like you are important than that right there. And then when you learn the rest of the story, that this God understood that we would run from Him, just like our kids tend to run from us and like into destruction because they're crazy and they're trying to be who they want to be. When you see that and God's like, I'll fix that too. And He comes as man to fulfill. It's crazy how much you can go, oh, you are very, very important. And I couldn't let that go because as soon as you said that, I'm like, oh my God, I've been saying for years that Genesis 2 is like, let me take from the zoom out all the way down into creating humanity. It's the exact opposite of what we do when we shove kids into public school and like, oh, you're just a number on a page and you're like, oh, it's so, man, that was beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. No, and I agree. And it's in Genesis where they talk about God divides the waters from above from the waters from
Mm-hmm.
below,
Mm-hmm. Oh,
and
we going
the
there.
firmament comes, right? So, if that's the truth, and God did create all of this, and this is all local, that makes way more sense because
Mm-hmm.
then you are important. You are
Mm-hmm.
you are not just a number. You are important. Your kids are important. Every
Yes.
soul is important, and not only that, we're all connected. It's a
Yeah.
consciousness that actually elevates everything. And if
Right.
we all start talking like this and we all start questioning it, guess what happens? The people on top controlling it start losing control
Mm-hmm.
because they already
Yeah.
have the money and they have the power, but we need to take that power back.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
starts by actually being sovereign humans. That's
Yes.
thinking for yourself. That's
So good,
thinking
man.
for yourself, and you have to teach your kids that. It's one of the biggest lessons we talk about as fathers, right, Nate? It's like,
Yeah.
dude, we want our kids to be critical thinkers, discernment, and we want them to speak with a very crisp tongue, right? They
Yeah.
have a high emotional intelligence and verbal intelligence, and that they have a good vocabulary.
Yeah.
All of those together, they're the most dangerous person there is because
Dude.
they aren't accepting narratives. They are critical thinking and they have the right vocabulary to describe exactly what they mean.
Yes, that's so good, so good. And I really do I put that pressure on dads because I feel like I always tell my kids I have this, my shoulders can handle it. Like I can take the weight. And I really want, like when I say that, I really do believe it and I feel that. Like that's my job. That's my responsibility. And so I lean hard on dads because your shoulders can handle it. That doesn't mean that like that moms don't do something because they are extremely important on so many levels. I just keep looking at dads going, we've abdicated so much and outsourced so much. It's like, oh, I have to go to work. Oh, I work. That's what I do. We've literally like outsourced everything to the point where, oh, I just make money and that's all it is. And we're not teaching our children to think. We're not teaching them to be strong and be virtuous. We're not teaching them to have, like our boys, we're not teaching our boys to have honor. Honor is something that was so important historically, but you learned that from your dad. You learned how to be an honorable human from your dad. And most guys nowadays would be like, yeah, I like my dad's a piece of shit, or like I hate my dad, or he left, I never knew him. Like all of the things that people are dealing with from I know our generation dealt with it, but the next generations after that have dealt with that in even more in mass. I just feel like putting that on dads, if you're a dad and you're listening to this, you can handle that pressure and you should take it on because that responsibility is the greatest responsibility you will ever have. Making a paycheck, whatever else you have, is nothing compared to raising your sons to be good men and your daughters to be great women. Like there's nothing more important than that, in my opinion. And I think that really does. And I know we're talking about conspiracies on this, but really, truly, it's creating critical thinkers, becoming them ourselves, and then teaching that to our children so that they are that. That's what's so important about all of this is to think for yourself.
I mean, and think about the ancient days when all of us men, like the guys that I know that are just great men, love the Stoics, right? Love Marcus
Yeah,
Aurelius and Seneca and,
yeah,
just go on and so forth. And it's like, what did they have so important back then? They had the ability to speak with an open mind and battle each other with philosophies and like
yeah,
what's true, what's not true. Well, and then they came to those conclusions that all of us now read from the meditations of Marcus Aurelius or anything. I love Seneca actually more than Marcus Aurelius, but
yeah.
there's just so many great Stoics, but it's because they had those conversations.
Oh yeah.
So they were already doing these podcasts. They were just doing it in person, under
Right?
under the stars with a fire, and
Yeah.
it's crazy to think that like we just all of a sudden stopped talking. You look at our parents, like especially mine and your generation, we had
Hmm.
baby boomer parents, and the baby boomers didn't speak. Dads talk about fucking parenting.
Yeah.
What? And still today, we see the same thing. Most dads aren't talking to other dads about, like, hey, how do you parent? How do you father? How do you,
Yeah.
it's like when I became a father, I was 38, and it just became my favorite sport. That's
Mm.
how I looked at it. I stopped following sports. I stopped
Hmm.
watching sports. I started studying parenting. I started reading books on parenting, on what other. I'm starting to read philosophies. I'm like,
Hmm.
it made me start internalizing life and saying,
Yeah.
fuck, am I right? Am I wrong? And that's called deschooling dad. In case any of you don't know, we as fathers, once our kids are born, we need to disconnect from what we were ever taught,
Yeah.
deschool ourselves, and relearn with our kids. And
Yeah.
when you do that, your mind's open and you're accepting any information as true or false. And now it's up to me to siphon through that with my kid and say, you know what? I was taught wrong. And I think now this way. And that's
Yep.
okay to change your opinion or your facts in your head, however you want
Yeah.
to look at that. It's totally okay. And I think you said something earlier about some people are so deep in it that the wheels are just turning so fast they can't pause or stop the wheels.
Yeah.
And it's like these people who during COVID, when people would get like one booster, then the next booster, and then they came out with all this information about how bad the vaccine is. But they're like, no, man, they're so good, and I need to keep my mask on. It's like they're so far in that there's no untangling that mess and saying, hey, man, come back to reality. I want you
Yeah.
to. To me, when I see people with masks on still, I'm like, dude, I feel so bad for you. The
Right.
science is totally out how horrible that is for your brain, for your
Yeah.
airway, for everything like as a human that you need. You're just allowing it to disappear and not care about living. And that's what
Yeah.
I think a big part of Dads Against the Narrative is that we do want people to live again. We don't want
Yes.
you to be in a fearful state. We want you to understand that there's brothers out there that want you to succeed in life, and we want to succeed. And sometimes the only way to do that is us rise together as a collective and move forward in a new way. The new
Yep.
way can't be the same as the old way, guys. We can't just keep feeding bullshit to our kids, sugar, 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 just like the Gen Xers were given and
Yeah.
millennials. We were all given tons of sugar because the boomers didn't question it. Put your
Yep.
shit in the microwave, just zap it. It's okay. No, we need to question everything. And maybe we need to take away some of those conveniences that we thought were healthy and okay. And we
Right.
now know the truth, how bad it is. A microwave is absolutely fucking horrible for the human body. We know that now. So I
Yeah.
haven't used a microwave in like 7 years. And I don't like to like go to the stove and warm stuff up, but we have to not be lazy.
Yeah.
Guys, for us to be able to move
Awesome.
forward, we cannot be lazy. We
Yep.
can't
Yep.
just be sitting still and that's okay in life. No, we have to continue moving, even if it's just a little bit every day. I'm
Yep.
not that guy who says give 100% every day. I'm that guy who says just move the needle just a
Mm-hmm.
fucking hair every day.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
can do that, you're going to teach yourself new patterns and you're going to get more wins and you're going to teach these habits that may be harder for you. They're just going to be basic, easy ones, everyday ones for your kids because you're changing old habits, but you're creating new habits for them.
That's
And it's
great.
much easier for kids than it is for us guys up in our 40s.
Yeah, yeah. It's like better to train it than to reteach it later, that's kind of thing.
Correct.
And you know what? They're gonna get older, they're gonna become our age, and they're gonna look back. And my prayer is that they don't have to change as much. But they're still gonna go, I'd have done that different. I'm gonna do it this way. And I think that that's great. Being I think this is where humility comes in. Being
Yes.
willing, and that was the thing for me is like I never, even when it came to 9/11, I was like, dude, it doesn't feel right. I don't like it, and I see too many things that say that go against the narrative here. But I was always like, I could be wrong, but I'm not going to put it past the government to try and do that. And the more I do this, the more I talk, the more I learn, the more I listen, the more I read, the more I go, yeah, I might not be fully right, but I'm not just taking all that in and going, oh yeah, let me just eat whatever they give me because it's it's really stupid. I mean, it really is because they're going to do whatever they can do, and whoever they are, they're going to do whatever it is to serve their own purpose. So I need to know that that's not always going to be what serves me or my children. And so to just take things hook, line, and sinker, or just accept things willingly without researching it or looking into it, like it just now it feels so crazy that that's something that I'm like, why doesn't everybody do that? I think that's where I've come to, is now I'm going, why doesn't everybody think through this stuff and like pause and not just take it as like, oh yeah, that's gospel because Joe Blow said it over there and I should believe him. It just I don't know. It's just one of those things where it comes back to it being willing to be humble enough to go, I could be wrong. And when you are wrong, coming back and going, yeah, I totally missed that, right? I am okay with feeling like something that's a conspiracy theory and being like, that's a total conspiracy. I'm totally okay with it if it comes back that way. But the scary part is every time I like jump onto one and go, that sounds more right. That's the one that keeps coming out. I feel like, especially since COVID, I just kept seeing things where like conspiracy theorists like 7,500. Like these guys who say this is the truth, zero. It's like we keep coming back. Like we got a perfect score here. We keep hitting the target, and there's something to be said about that with critical thinking, you know. But that humility, in my opinion, gives us the ability to go, ah, yeah, you know, like my oldest is 21, and someday in the future, not far, I mean, he'll be a dad, and he may say, "Oh, I'm going to do this and this," and I'm going to watch him make decisions, all of them, make decisions that might not be what I did, and I'm going to have the humility to go, "Yeah, I probably fucked that up a little bit. You can do whatever you need to there, you know." I don't know. I just
Yeah.
feel like that helps our kids not be afraid to change things, but that just comes back to being like a critical thinker and humble, in my opinion.
No, it all kind of comes back. And guys, I'm gonna give my final thought on
Yeah.
this so we can wrap it up. I know we're coming up on an hour, but I agree. When Nate, what you just said, you hit it on the head. I was like, yeah, that's we don't need to even go further right now because without awareness and reflection, you don't get to humility. You don't
Mm,
get to the point where you're like, I could be fucking mistaken.
right.
You have to have some type of awareness. You need to go look in the mirror and reflect a little bit, man. Sit by yourself with your thoughts and say, man, could that be right? Could it be wrong? Weigh each side. What makes more sense? And then come to that point. Because without humility, I agree with you, Nate. You're not going anywhere. Because even when your kids get older and they want to say, hey, dad, I think you were wrong. You taught me wrong in this area. When you have humility, you'll be like, you know what? I agree. Now
Yeah.
you've shown me a version that I never seen before,
Yeah.
son or daughter. Thank
Yeah.
you. And instead of attacking them or arguing with your adult child, now
Yeah.
you're thanking them for teaching you. It's their job. It's our job to teach them through their adolescence. It's their job to show us the new ways as they become adults because we're the
Yeah.
older version. And sometimes the older people get lazy and complacent and they don't keep learning. And this is another important part in life, right? The script was handed to us. You wake up, you go to work, 9 to 5, 67, you retire, then you can finally live life. But what happened way before you even started the work? Like 15 years of going to school, 9 to 5, right? They planned everything out. We are given a script in life. And instead, we need to break away from that script and rise up together. And right now, I am a true believer that it is fathers that are the most important people in this world that can change this. We were the ones that left during war. We were the ones that left when things got hard and we needed to pay the bills. We were the ones that left when there was divorce rates going through the roof because feminists wanted to be single and self-righteous. We were the ones that left every time that we were fighting for our kids and we lost those battles. We were the ones that left. It was us. It was the fathers. It's time for us to come back. It's time for us to question every damn thing, rise up together, and don't let others trick you into being a silent bystander or saying that you're wrong because you don't fit in. What Nate said earlier is exactly right. It's time for us not to fit in. And
Yes.
that's my final thoughts on this one today. Thank you guys. Nate, it's over to you to close us out.
Yeah, man. I think dude, you said it so well, and I can't say any more than just be willing. I think there's humility on both ends of this. The humility to say, I don't know everything, so I'm going to be willing to learn. I'm going to be willing to be open. And I think that right there puts you in a position ahead of so many people that are like, no, this is what I believe. You said it like where you said it about we're handed a script. How scary is it that by the time we're 5 years old, we go to that 9 to 5 job where bells ring and we're told we can go here, we can go there. We're going to learn this now. We're going to like you have to ask to go to the bathroom, raise your hand, only speak when you're spoken to. All of those things go against, in my opinion, go against what children are and how we are meant to be. We're supposed to be more open with how we talk. We're not supposed to be told what to do all over the place. And that we as men, you said it, we left and we got to come back. So therefore, it is on us. The onus is on us to rise up against the narrative that we're given, to rise up against the script that's been handed to us, and be the free thinkers who change the world. Be the men who, like you, as a man, as a father, you have been given the shoulders to bear the weight of being different. And although that can be painful, you also have the power to do it, and you're definitely not alone. You got two guys right here that are like, oh my gosh, the more we talk, the more I was like, oh my God, I think just like Jack. Oh, this is crazy. But it puts fire in me because every time I come back from talking with Jack and other friends of ours, I find myself more and more inspired. So come back for the inspiration, come back for more of the rabbit hole and finding how all of it is closely knit to put us in a position of control and fight back against that and take back the control. And with that, gentlemen, I'm signing off. We'll see you next time.